If you have stayed about the same or neutral, put an N, right? And if you feel like you failed, right, we'll just say how you feel, put an F in there. So either a Y, an N, or an F. And I'm just trying to get an idea about where people are ending up. Okay. So as I kind of scroll through these, bunch of Y's on top. Those guys were real excited. And then we got some N's in there, some neutral, and then a couple of F's. Um, and with the F's, I know I've personally spoken with a couple. Um, and one of the things that I notice on some of these are you might think of them as a failure, but some of these are, we're talking about 1 to 2 pounds when you look at actual numbers. And keep in mind there is a margin of error on any body fat testing device. Although this InBody is a very accurate, it's considered one of the most accurate. Keep in mind even just things, if you look at your water weight from one of your scan sheets to the next, I saw people that had 2 to 3 pounds of difference just in the water. So for those of you who haven't got to really dug into those numbers, don't be shy to, if you see me around the gym or you see John around the gym, feel free to flag us down and we'll be happy to go over those sheets with you and look at, there's a lot more on that InBody scan than just muscle and fat. So some of the times we can find some things there. Sometimes it means we do need to make some changes. This is not a one size fits all process that we're on. And keep in mind, this program, previous challenges have been 30 days, 45 days. We chose to go 90 days so that we can see this thing through until you guys get the results you're looking for. Um, Looks like, John, did you have anything you wanted to add before we get into recalculating or anything like that?
Ryan, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
The only thing I would add is, this is 30 days in, and a lot of us have been doing damage for a year, 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20, 30 years of poor nutritional choices. And um, uh, the only thing is, so let's not get caught up in 30 days, it's going to fix it. What we're trying to do is stop having us downward or backwards treading and neutralize or stabilize. And so the first 30 days for those of you guys that have not been great with your nutrition was to essentially stabilize where you're at or just kind of get the metabolism up and started again. And for those of you guys that have been eating clean, you probably saw a little bit more results. And so for those of you guys that do not get discouraged, see it through for all 90 days, because by quitting, you're not going to get anywhere otherwise. So trust in the system, trust in the programming, trust in your self to make good decisions.
So in line with what John's saying there, as far as the good decisions, just kind of an interesting tip. As some of you guys know, I'm currently going through the Precision Nutrition Coaches Certification, which is considered amongst fitness professionals to be one of the kind of top nutrition certifications for people who work with athletes specifically. That's their main focus, is people who train hard, who train regularly. And one of their most basic rules, and this isn't a bad thing to write down, and the rule is this: it is, if food is in your possession or located in your residence, you will eventually eat it. So if you go way back to the beginning of this, John had a good tip for you guys from the original workshop, which was, if you're going to have that treat, put it somewhere far enough away, maybe even out in the garage, where you have to really want it. You have to go out of your way to go get it. If you have, if you're a month into this and you still have cheat foods or things that tempt you, and they're just right out in the open, uh, it's unlikely that you either A, have used that self-control and left those things alone, or B, if you have, one of the things John was speaking about earlier this week is how self-control is kind of like a battery, right? And it can wear down. So if you constantly have these temptations in your house that you're trying to avoid, you're going to find that you're going to get kind of weaken that down. And then the weekend rolls around, that battery is wore down, or the evening rolls around, that battery is wore down, and you're more likely to succumb to those epic cheat meals, right? And don't underestimate the damage caused by those cheat meals. I know we talked about, hey, if you're doing well all week, that one meal that you don't record isn't necessarily going to trash your whole week of efforts. However, keep in mind, it's not that hard if you don't record. It's not that hard if you go out to a restaurant or a party to easily take in 1,500, 2,000 calories that you wouldn't normally take in. So if that happens, once a week, uh, that adds up. That's a full day. Figure 2,000 calories, which, hey, that's a full size plate at most local restaurants, and a dessert and a drink that isn't sugar free. It's not that hard to get there, believe it or not, if you're not keeping track. And if you do that once a week, that's almost an extra day of food. So even cheat meals still need to have some sensibility to it, some moderation. So just something to kind of keep in mind is, if you had 4 days out of that 28 days that were, I did good on the other six, you may have essentially almost 50% extra calories for those days. That can make a difference of a pound or two. And when we're talking single digit body fat percentage differences, that could be the difference of, did I lose 1.5% or did I gain 1%? So when you get down to those really small numbers, yeah, individual big meals or weekends can really add up. So something to be aware of there. Um, John, did you have, I know you were kind of talking about this self-control piece earlier, and maybe you could kind of fill us in a little bit on that, a little bit more on how the battery theory.
Yeah, so as I was reading a book on self-control and willpower, and it was a really, really intriguing article because it talked about how no matter what, if we continue to keep putting ourselves in situations where we have to choose between two things, that requires willpower. And if you have to make a lot of stressful decisions throughout the day, and the analogy I'll use here in a minute should make sense, that our willpower dwindles down, and by the end of the day, you have none left. So for any of you guys out there, we've all had that very, very stressful day before. And you kind of get to, say, 5 o'clock, and you're like, screw going to the gym, I'm going to have a beer. And and what that is your willpower has changed, or you go home for dinner and you're like, you know what, I'm having a pizza tonight. I'm gonna have some ice cream. Like I've had a hell of a day. And really, what it is your willpower just kind of got away, and you kind of forgot about your long-term goals, and you're looking for that instant satisfaction. And so the article went on and on and on, and it was, to summarize it, the quick and easy is, as you make decisions throughout the day, the only way you actually can recharge your willpower is through protein, believe it or not, carbohydrates, complex carbohydrates, and then taking 20-minute like little mental breaks. And so they talk about, when you do not eat small or specific meals throughout the day, and you've had to make decisions throughout the day, or even willpower decisions, walking into the break room, seeing donuts there, walking away, not eating them, you can only walk in there so many times before you're going to break. And so putting yourself into situations like that can be hard on your willpower. But they talked about protein, complex carbohydrates, and eating those steady meals throughout the day should help you rebuild your willpower up. It was just a really, really intriguing article, just because I think we've all been in that position where we've had long, hard days, and you're running around with your head cut off and you don't have time to eat, and all of a sudden the only meal you had that day was breakfast. You get home and you're just like, screw it, I'm going to eat the whole pizza, and I'm having a couple beers. Heck, I might even throw in a glass of wine to wash it all down. And so for those of you guys that you get yourself in situations like that, just understand that you're kind of like an iPhone battery, or however you want to think about it. But if you can continue to keep mixing in healthy decisions throughout the day, and then taking 20 minutes just to clear your mind from after a tough decision, it should allow you to kind of reestablish that willpower throughout the day. And doing that, throughout the journey should help you guys continue to make better decisions. So that was the very abbreviated version.
Excellent. All right. Next, guys, we are coming up on in tonight's talk how to recalculate. So I know some of you guys have probably followed everything to a T, and it just, for whatever reason, maybe the macros didn't quite fit your body type. Maybe we underestimated how much you're training. Maybe we overestimated how much you're training. But for whatever reason, things just aren't going quite the right direction. So we're going to show you some ways that we can um, reevaluate and dial those in. But before we get to that, I've got a quick 5-step kind of little cheat sheet for you here. And this would be, again, this would be something you might want to write down. Step one of these, I'll give you guys a minute, but this is 5, just kind of when it's time to take in a meal, regardless of your macros, regardless of what your goals are, these kind of work for all of us, right? So the first one is, are you eating slowly? You want to check in with hunger, um, sit down, relax, and take your time. 15 to 20 minutes for a meal is about right. And make sure to stop eating when you're about 80% full. All right, now that is a pretty simple guideline. Um, but think about this honestly. Have you in the last week had to eat strictly out of convenience, right? And let's see some feedback on this, guys. How many people in the last week had to slam down a meal? So let's just get a Y up there if you have. If all of your meals you ate sitting down, actually thinking about eating, you can put an N. All right, so clearly a lot of us are eating kind of under the gun from time to time, right? So this is something that it doesn't sound like a big deal. It's really common, but if you're eating quickly, one of the things that you should be aware of is part of your digestive process, right? And when you go to look at your micronutrients, right? These are your vitamins, minerals, all those things. That actually begins in the mouth, right? So if you're skipping that whole chewing your food portion, there's a good chance that you are missing out on some of the nutrients that you could be getting versus slamming that food down. And it's a little bit different post-workout when you're trying to get those nutrients in right away. But that's step number one, is just simply ask yourself, right? I would write this on an index card, all 5 steps, and as a matter of fact, that might be our homework this week, is each meal, ask yourself the 5 questions each meal. Now, question number 2 for you to write down here is, where is the protein dense food, right? If you screw up everything else, maybe your MyFitnessPal just isn't your buddy, it isn't really your pal, whatever it is, you should still be able to check this box. Where is the protein dense food? So are you about to eat at least 1 palm, right? Size and thickness of your palm of protein, and that would be your portion size. Now, typically men, you guys are lucky, you get 2 palm size portions. So step 2 for your meals here, guys, is do you have that protein source at each meal? So again, this is a two-way communication tonight. If you had protein at each meal this past week, let's go ahead and put a Y in there. If you had some meals that were just fat or just, of course, CrossFitters, right? You guys have no problem with the protein. Um, if you've got some meals where it's just a piece of fruit, but you're not getting that protein in, that's not always a great thing. So something to be aware of. And a lot of times, is it better to have an apple or banana than nothing at all? Yeah, absolutely. But in general, there's almost no meal for an athlete where there's not going to be at least some kind of protein involved. All right. So question number 3. I'm going to ask you again to respond on this one. Question number 3, you're going to ask yourself at each meal, though, is, where are the veggies, right? And you're going to ask yourself this before you start eating. So here's the in-depth. Are you about to eat a large portion of veggies? The answer should be yes. They can be prepared any way you like. One serving is about one fist-sized portion, and you should try to eat a few portions per meal. So we're talking that your closed fist, right? That is a veggie serving. So that could be of broccoli, of lettuce, anything like that. So other than your pre-post workout, right? Let's go ahead and see it, guys. If you had a serving of veggies with all of your regular meals this week, let's get a Y up there. If not, that's a place to start looking, especially if you've been hungry. If you feel sluggish, oftentimes that can be because we're lacking micronutrients. And so question number 3, each meal, where are the veggies, right? And that's just something that throughout the week you can ask yourself. All right, now the next one, as we know, veggies are carbs, but they are typically high in fiber, right? So they're carbs that digest slower because of the fiber in there. The next one is, where are the carbs? Carbs. So, so if haven't just worked out, if you have fat to lose, but you have not just worked out, eat less pasta, bread, rice, and other starchy carbs. Opt for a double serving of veggies instead. If you just worked out, a mix of carb sources is fine, right? So that if I'm eating the starchier carbs, all right, and that I would apply that to bars, right? Sometimes they're labeled as nutrition bars. I would apply that to fruits. I would apply that to any kind of grains. Those are all going to fall in our starchy carbs, right? Yes, veggies are carbs also, but they're so healthy, we really don't even count them against the carbs very much when we're just eyeballing a plate. So each meal, you're going to need some of them. I think low carb sometimes gets taken too far. And if you're an athlete, especially if you're trying to gain muscle, especially if you're trying to refuel for your next workout, each meal we want you to say, where are the carbs? Now, the more weight you're trying to lose, the less starchy carbs you're going to eat, right? The more muscle you're trying to gain, the more starchy carbs you're probably going to need. And there, a lot of you will fall somewhere in the middle. And the rule of thumb, remember, we had from way back at the workshop was we had a 5-to-1, right? A 4-to-1, and a 3-to-1, I believe it was. And it was how many veggies to fruit do I eat, or veggies to starchy. So the more I'm on the weight loss side of things, the more vegetables, the less starchy carbs I'm going to eat, and that'll shift as we shift towards performance-driven goals, right? So each meal, you're going to ask yourself, where are the carbs? Because you do need to have those as well. All right, the last one you're going to ask, question number 5 for each meal, what are your fats? Where are your fats coming from? So you're going to need some fats from various foods, prioritizing whole food sources like eggs, meat, fish, olives, nuts, and seeds. And you want to spread these fats throughout the day. Now, many of you, if you're not training in the morning, I think many people find a lot of luck stacking those healthy fats towards the morning a little bit more, and then moving more of that protein and carb closer to their workout time. But in general, you need at least some fat with nearly every meal, right? The only meal that you might not have any fat with might be like your post workout or pre-workout right around that workout time. But the rest, you're going to have some of those healthy fats each time. And you want to vary those fat sources, right? Obviously, if it's all low quality vegetable oil or hydrogenated, stuff that's obviously not great for you. So the things like the olive oil, your fish oil, obviously avocados, moderation with the nuts, but all those things can have positive health benefits. So there's your 5 questions, and that'll be our homework this week. Is each meal you're going to ask yourself, are you eating slowly? Where is the protein? Where's the protein dense food with this meal, right? Where are the veggies? Number 4 is, where are the carbs? And number 5 is, where are your fats coming from? So we want to make sure as much as possible those are healthier sources of fat, not just kind of just like carbs. There's fats that are not as valuable to you as some healthier sources. All right. So that is your 5 tips. Now we're going to move into recalculating body scans. John, I might ask you for a favor if you can help us get an Eat to Perform calculator in the screen here. And while we get that loaded up, those of you that rescanned this week, this would be a great opportunity for you to go ahead and grab your body scan sheet. So if you've got your in-body scan, you want to go ahead and get that out. And we are going to readjust, or we're going to adjust your uh, TDEE based on your new weight and lean body mass. I'm going to get this up in the other screen, so bear with us just a moment. All right. So we're going to just walk step by step through this. I know many of you have probably messed around with this website a little bit as we've used the ETP calculator before, um, but I'm going to take you through this step by step. All right. So first off, you'll see we've gone in here. We enter height. Right. So you want to enter your height, and you may remember from last time. Don't write inches. Don't write any letters. Just a numeric value. Then you're going to go down to weight. You're going to do the exact same thing. Don't write inches, don't write pounds, no symbols, just a numeric value, and we're going to punch that in. Age, same thing, put in your age in years. For activity level, we're going to select based on how active you are. This is really important to take into account. Remember, moderately active, that would be, somebody who's training 3 days a week, maybe up to 3 hours a week. I would consider that moderately active. Or it could be that you're training, you're not really training, but you're going for a walk 30 minutes a day, something like that. If you are training more than 3 days a week, so for example, you're doing the strength class and maybe you're doing some extra days, right? Maybe you're going to CrossFit a couple times. You're probably going to be that middle one, right? If you're doing performance, chances are you're training 5 to 6 days a week. You might be training up to 2 hours a day. You're going to pick the highest one there, right? You'll be the extra active. So many of you will fall in the middle category, but if you know you're not doing much beyond just your 3 classes, you might just be in that basic level. All right, next you're going to select gender, and then under units, make sure that says imperial or everything will be in metric. All right, from there, where it says show TDEE, most of us that are, by most I mean the larger group, which is doing fat loss, most of you guys will be in show TDEE minus 10%. Right? If you are doing muscle gain or performance, so if you're doing muscle gain or performance, you're more likely to do well on the just show TDEE, right? So select that based on your goals. Fat loss, we're going to have you guys at that minus 10%. Next.
So Ryan, pause there for
Go
1
ahead, John.
second. So
Yep.
for you guys that have been, say you're somebody that's naturally pretty lean, but you've been under calorically, if you do show TDE and you do not do the 10%, you just do TDEE, and you did that for the last 30 days and you put fat on, the reason being is your metabolism has not caught up to your caloric intake. That is not a bad thing. What happened was due to you guys under eating for such a long time, your metabolism is catching up. So don't change that. If you did TDE last time, stay there. Even though you put a little fat on, that's okay. Your metabolism will swing back around in these next 30 days. So just this is why it's a 90-day challenge and not a 30-day challenge. Um, so just
Yeah, great point. Yeah, so if you guys, exactly what John said, if you are somebody who has eaten very conservatively, very strict for a long time, and especially if you were plateaued, remember the whole point of the workshop before we ever launched this, before we had any of these Sunday workshops planned, anything, the whole point of it is to help people break through plateaus. And you can't do that by doing the same thing you've always done. So if you were stuck on what you were doing before, um, oftentimes that's because we were just under calorically. And if I stay in that place, cutting your calories works until it doesn't work anymore, right? Any diet you do can work, but at some point they will all plateau. And if your weight loss plan was to simply cut calories, there's a point where your body will just adjust. It will downshift into a more economical gear, right? A slower paced gear until it can maintain, or it'll drop your if you look on your in-body sheet and it shows you that basal metabolic rate, it will, even though your in-body might say 1450, your body knows, well, I'm not even eating 1500 calories. It's going to drop down into a basal metabolic rate that is much slower. So to correct for that, there's going to be a gap for a little while, right? And the research shows that as if you eat extra, just like if you eat too little, eventually that metabolism will pick up. Now, we want to balance those things out, and eventually we're going to lose fat with it. But especially if you've had trouble gaining muscle, um, you're probably under calorically, or you have been under calorically for a long time. You have to have extra calories to add new muscle to your body. Edith is asking if we can post the link to the calculator. Yes, Edith, I think John's going to grab that for you here. You can always just Google too. If you just look up Eat to Perform calculator and Google, it pops straight up. So, all right, so let's move on down this calculator, helping people get dialed back in. All right, so we've got the show TDEE minus 10%. We've got the regular TDEE if we're performance or muscle gain. Now, next thing we're going to talk about is protein. So most of us are going to go at lean body mass. So since we know our lean body mass, all right, and it's on that in-body sheet, we're going to say that we're going to go with lean body mass. For those of you that come from the zone background, this would be the higher level on the zone, right? The 1.0. And kind of keep in mind, our base level here would be the very active on the zone, because people didn't train this hard 15 years ago when the zone was made. That's back when everybody was doing 30 minutes of cardio and that was considered exercise. Uh, People hadn't experienced Fran yet, is a great example. So lean body mass, and then we're going to go down below that and put in body fat percentage. So for our example here, we're going to use 10%, and you're going to put in your body fat percentage. And then for fats, we're going to do something a little different today. Now, if your percentages in your MyFitnessPal have been working, let's say you're somebody that gained 2 pounds of muscle, you lost 3 pounds of fat, overall lost a little bit of weight, then you can leave that alone. If what you're doing is working, you do not have to change it. However, if your body fat is changed, right, you still want to fill this out to get an idea what your new TDEE is, and you still want to adjust that because your body is different than it was a month ago. But especially if you have not seen results, if you're in that 25% where this hasn't worked for you yet, try this, right? So what we're going to do is take, and John's putting the notes here down below, you can look at it in the chat, take 0.5 times your body weight in pounds, and we're going to set that as your fat grams, right? 0.5 times your body weight in pounds, and set that as your fat grams. And we are going to solve for carbs. Don't make sure you don't put anything in carbs because you have to have something to solve for. All right. When that's all done, you can go ahead and hit enter at the bottom, and you should have something that looks like what John has here. So I want to make sure you guys are following along. So if you're still with us, please type a Y in, or if you have questions, let's go ahead and get them so far. Okay. Janelle's got a great one here. She's exactly between two numbers of fats. I'm going to give you an answer for this. Um, if your goal is fat loss, I would start with that higher fat amount. But keep in mind when you enter it into your MyFitnessPal, you could probably dial that back right to somewhere in the middle. It's just this calculator doesn't let you split it.
Ryan, we
If you're
can
more for performance, oh, go ahead, John.
you can do the math on it, Janelle, right? So
Yeah.
let's and just get specific. So for myself, I was the same way. So um, Ryan, how many calories is a protein? It's 4, right?
Yeah, if you want to be really specific, yeah, 4 calories per gram. Four
Okay,
calories per
so
gram.
Janelle, let's use myself as that example again. I weigh 180 pounds, and if you guys hang with me, this will be how you guys can figure it out specifically and forget the calculator. And I'm 10%. So here's the two stats. I'm 10% body fat. So right then and there, we know that my lean body mass is, hop on a calculator, 180 times 0.9 equals 162. So Ryan, what's 162 would be the amount of uh, grams of protein I would eat, grams of protein, and you said times 4, Ryan?
Yeah, if it's super clean, and you're going counting the protein only, that's going to be pretty close. I mean, it might be 4.1, 4.2, but this gets you right in the ballpark.
All right, so for fat, Janelle, or for anybody that's kind of not able to just use a specific number, take fat, and now again go back to the 180 uh, and multiply it by 0.5, which will equal 90. And this will equal 90 grams, but also how many calories does that equal? Well, that's going to eat, calories is higher,
Nine.
Ryan. What is the calories?
So 9 calories per gram is the average for fats.
So I'm going to eat 810 calories, um, and this is that. Does that make sense? You know how you can kind of figure it out?
And there we go.
Okay. Go
Awesome,
ahead.
awesome.
Go ahead, Ryan.
That was a great question. Keep in mind, this calculator is meant to be like a quick shoot from the hip, but it does really well at getting you the correct TDEE, and we can fine tune things when you take it over to your MyFitnessPal. And I know MyFitnessPal works on percentages, and if you're on the free version, you can't put it down to the gram, but you can dial those percentages in 5% increments until you get where you want to be on it. All right, let's see. We had a few other questions here. Jackie, not sure on the video cutting out. It's working great on this end. Might have to just log out and log back in. Let's see here. 30% protein, 35, 35. I want to say the same. What do I put in for fats again? Leslie, the honest answer is it wouldn't necessarily matter. If you like the percentages and they're working for you, if they're going the right direction, you could put in, 75 grams is probably going to be close. And then the main thing you're going to be looking at is at your TDEE. If your percentages are working for you, if it isn't broke, you don't necessarily have to fix it. So, but we do want to make sure if you're going to need more calories that you're not undernourished. Awesome. All right, so hopefully that gives some of you guys a new angle on calculating your carbs, right? So what we did is we put in protein, and that's based off your lean body mass. We put in fats, and we actually use body weight as the driver of that. And what that'll do is the leaner you are, the less fat you're going to end up ingesting, and you may have to get those additional calories from more carbs. If you are more in that fat loss category, you're probably looking at eating a little bit more fat. And I think oftentimes people begin to lose fat, but they forget that they may need to shift as they get leaner towards a little bit more carbohydrate, something they can digest quicker and burn off a little bit quicker. So remember, these things are always moving. Every time your body changes its body composition, it'll also change its optimal fuel to run on. All right, I think we're good there. How's everybody doing with the MyFitnessPal side of it? Are you guys able to take where we're at here and then carry that over to the MyFitnessPal, or do we need some help there? Good. Awesome. Awesome. All right, then. I am going to bring in one last piece here. If you guys will give me just a minute to find it. And this is, I've got some things where if you're out and you don't have time to play around on the phone with the company you're with, kind of how to eyeball a plate. And so give me just a minute here. I'm going to hunt that up. And if you do have any questions in the meantime, feel free to post those. This will take just a second here. I'll tell you what, guys. You know what we'll do is we'll post those up in the workshop Facebook forum. I think that'll be easier for you guys to actually download them instead of just seeing them here. I'll put up the actual files, and it's going to be a plate building cheat sheet that should match very closely with what your meal percentages will break down. If you go through and fill out that Eat to Perform calculator the way we walked you through tonight, this will be kind of the quick kind of picture version of that. All right, we have a couple more questions here. Let's see. So Eve is asking, so should I put in the percentage breakdown on the calculator in MyFitnessPal? Yes, if the new numbers are what we're going to go to, you could go into MyFitnessPal, and the way I would do this is I would punch in my percentages the way I already had them, and see what that shows you for grams, right? And if it looks like your protein is high, bring it back in 5% increments until that is as close as you can get to what you have on your Eat to Perform calculator. Then go through and do the same for your carbs and for your fats. So you're going to make small adjustments until those fall in as close as you can to what you came up with on the calculator. And for anybody that was stalled out, this is probably going to change more than anything. It's going to change your carbohydrate to fat ratio to be more in tune with your body.
The other thing too is you guys got to make sure you update the calories. So your calories should be different and your percentages should all be different for phase two. So when you guys head over to MyFitnessPal, make sure first and foremost you add calories in there, and then you can look at the performance calculator, grab those percentages, carry them over, and tweak them. And again, I think they're working in increments of 5, like Ryan said. So uh, you're trying to get as close as you can.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. What is the name of the Facebook group for the workshop? I think, isn't it just 90-day workshop challenge? Something like that. Let's take a look.
Yes, I can,
The
Claire,
workshop
I can
90
add you
day. There we
if
go.
Claire, add me on Facebook as a friend, and then I'll put you in the group today.
Excellent. So guys, let's review here and kind of go over our marching orders as we go into phase two. So first and foremost, you're going to recalculate your TDEE, and many of you, if you're on the fat loss, you might still be on that -10 for a little bit. If you are set there, you're going to take those and update your MyFitnessPal, right? So that's your first thing you're going to do is adjust to your new body composition. Next, you are going to go by our primary rule here. This was kind of our fun nutrition fact for the week, but it definitely applies. And that is, if food is in your possession or located in your residence, you will eventually eat it. So if you haven't stopped yet, if you're a month into this and you haven't cleaned out the cupboards, go back and do that first, right? If every time you have a bad day, you've got that Oreo staring you down, right? Maybe you don't eat it, but it's costing you valuable self-control that you could spend later when you're around friends, and you might need that at another time. So don't, if you don't want to be tempted, get it out of there, right? Put it somewhere where you're going to really need to go out of your way to get that treat. And if that's the case, then don't beat yourself up. Once you're to that point, you've probably earned it or whatever it is at that point. Next, we had our 5 rules we went over. Hopefully you wrote those down. I won't go through all of those again, but each meal, right, and take at least this first week of the month here, and every time you sit down, I would write those 5 rules on an index card, and every time you eat, look at those 5 rules. If you do nothing else but check those 5 boxes, I can almost guarantee you're going to lose fat. If you screw up all this other stuff and you've got vegetables at every meal, you've got a protein source at every meal, and you are eating slowly, it's pretty hard to goof that up, guys. You're very likely to be healthier at the end of that. So start there. You know, this is really fine tuning compared to those really fundamental eating practices. All right. We've got one we'll just check out. We had a couple more questions here. 20%, 51%, 19%. Is that really heavy in carbs for a fat loss? That depends on, well, one, what kind of carbs they are, and also on your activity level, Sarah. So if you want to bring those in, we want to make sure we uh, get things wrapped up here. But if you want to track us down at the gym or shoot me a private message, I can go over those with you one-on-one. But it depends. I'd have to see the whole picture to actually answer that question, and I'd have to be looking at your goals and all of that. So feel free to reach out to me. We can address that individually. Uh, Same, Janelle, same. We can bring that sheet in. We'll dig through it. All right, John. Any last thoughts here?
Um, the last thing I would say is, uh, as much as you guys want to get results, and as bad as we want to see you guys get results, just remember there's no replacement for hard work. So at the end of the day, if you're not seeing results, this is where I give you a little bit of kick in the shorts. It goes back to that effort in the gym and you making decisions 7 days a week when you're outside of the gym. So only you will know, and only you can judge yourself on truly how you did. And I always say our bodies are our testimonials for the way we live our life. And some of us, yes, are blessed with genes that are better. For example, my father is a skinny old fart, and he looks like he's fit, but I know he's not. And but for those of you guys that you wear your calories a little bit easier, just really try to dial in your decisions this next 30 days, and really start to push your intensity in the gym. And it goes back to when you guys are squatting, when you guys are benching. You guys in the second phase, your strength protocol is about to change here in a couple weeks. Push it hard. Yes, I know tempo's involved, but really challenge yourself to go harder and to really push that level of intensity. And I know we have you guys backed off on certain things, but when you guys are able to really challenge yourself, go for it and push hard, and try to limit the amount of not cheats, but essentially when you do have cheats, don't go overboard. Indulge, but in that moderation. So we're excited to see you guys. We know the next 30 days will bring some more success, and we know the last 90 days is going to bring lots of success. So right now we're just getting started. Stick with it. Keep pushing forward. And honestly, whatever your scan says, it does not define you. If you had a good scan, it doesn't matter. And if you had a bad scan, it doesn't matter. We have 60 days left. There's tons of time to keep kicking butt.
Excellent. And just a reminder, I know some of you guys are probably saying, "Whoa, my numbers are changing with this new thing you showed us tonight." Remember, this is that next step for you. So if again, if you're losing fat and gaining muscle, which is already rare, if everything's going the right direction, just change your calories. If there's a change there, don't feel like, hey, this is working. I don't want to, that's great. Keep doing it if it's working. But if it's not, or if you're like John said, in that phase where you're rebuilding your metabolism, then you can try this new way. But give it time. Don't revert back to 1,200 calories a day, and you're not going to get in the long run the results that I think most of you guys are looking for. So, guys, have a great week, and thanks for tuning in tonight. And again, if you have other questions, feel free to reach out to us on an individual basis, and we'll be happy to help you out.